Good afternoon, folks, and here's a posting on StarTrek.com that sort of threw me for a loop, and I thought I'd discuss it because it's just so ridiculous. From the Star Trek communist, or rather about the Star Trek communist, and how he hopes Star Trek can inspire a real revolution, which is probably not going to happen because that's stupid. This is just a show, and the current iterations of Star Trek are pretty crap, at least from fans of Star Trek. It'll have to be through new fans of Star Trek, like the past 4 or 5 years maybe, that like all the new crap out there. That's fine. You like whatever you like. I don't care. I don't watch it, so it's your bag. But you're not going to change anyone else's minds, especially when you're trying to bring up communism through Star Trek. So here's this fellow. He's called the Star Trek Communist, which is the dumbest thing I've heard this year. I think we've talked about this before with Stephen Shives, I think, which is ridiculous, as it were. But this is even dumber. So let's see what he has to say. Here is Will Nguyen. In the Earth of the future, we eliminate poverty, hunger, homelessness, and all the stuff that's hard to still talk about. It's paradise on Earth. How do you achieve a one-world government with no national borders, where we've eliminated poverty and war and hunger and disease? That's a pretty significant gain, a pretty significant achievement. Well, it's the same way we've done so throughout the years, especially the past 100 years, where we've seen problems and other people have solved that problems. So we have people who want bread and people who only have chickens. Some people are tired of eating chickens all day. Some people are tired of eating bread all day. So they see your chickens as more valuable than their bread and vice versa. And they make an exchange. It's called bartering. That is how we get along. That is how we survive. And that is how we get better. Some people have better chickens. Some people have cheaper chickens. Some people have better bread. Different kinds and flavors of this or that. And on we go. And that's how we create tools and technology to solve these problems and to have our tastes served to us. So we need shelter, we need food, we need clothing. We provide machines and technology to do so. That's why we have power plants, water treatment plants. We have natural gas being pumped into our houses for heating, all sorts of wonderful technologies. And that is the standard of living we've achieved, not as a result of communism, but as a result of free enterprise, or as free as it could be. Obviously, it's not as free as it could be, but that's the idea. So everything we have in terms of technology has come through free enterprise. Individuals or individual companies trying to solve problems for others. Even the government, we cannot say, if it just delivers war and death, if that's the function of the government to protect ourselves from others outside the country we're in, had to have contracts with military or other organizations to make weapons of war. The government doesn't really make anything. It just doles out the taxpayer dollar to build stuff so they could use it for war or whatever. Now, you will say maybe ARPA, when it came down, the ARPANET came down, the idea for war of how can you communicate quickly over a long distance, which was the birth of the internet, but it was ultimately the free enterprise or independent companies like telecoms buying that technology and then licensing it, making their own patents on it. And then we have ISDN lines and T1s and T3s and modems and POTS and using ADSL or DSL and cable and high speed and satellite phones and all these other wonderful technologies through telecommunications to create what we have today as the internet, which is just a series of small intranets connected until it became this massive countrywide network that we call the internet, and then it connected to the rest of the planet. So all of that is free enterprise, nothing to do with government. You could say the government started it, but ultimately the free enterprise or capitalism perfected it. So he thinks the answer to getting to Star Trek world of a post-scarcity environment where all your needs are met, everything's free, poverty is free, mental health is at an all-time high, etc., is through communism. Okay. Fascinating how the only way to get to communism is through capitalism, but okay, sure. Let's see your argument, sir. The conclusion is, only through a socialist revolution to overthrow capitalism, going to the next stage of human development, can you actually do that. See, this is where I'm a little confused. Once you overthrow capitalism, then what? How do you get goods and services to the people? How do you pay them? What's fair? What are they going to be motivated by? You see, the whole point of capitalism is to provide the best service at the lowest cost to the consumer. That's how you survive as a sale, as a business. You provide a good or service of the highest quality at the lowest cost, to manufacture and to sell. That's it. You do the best job you can at the lowest cost you can for everyone involved. That won't happen in communism. In fact, you get the exact opposite in communism. You get a lot of lazy people who don't want to do work and end up fighting over scraps because there's not enough to go around. So you need some degree of abundance in anything to start a new enterprise. So an enterprise like fusion power would take a lot of energy and time and resources and thinking and engineering and failure and breaking things and billions of dollars gone down the tube just to figure stuff out. Can't do that when you have communism. There's just not enough to go around. Capitalism produces abundance, and you can experiment with that abundance. You have time. Money is just another trade-off for time. If you have time, you can do many things. So if you don't have that relationship between time and money, then what are you doing? How are you solving anything? What are you exchanging money for in relation to time? What would replace money? I'm just curious. Anyway. I think my Star Trek journey, if you will, started out like many of my generation, pun intended. I was a next generation baby. I grew up watching it on syndication, watching Patrick Stewart, blah, 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 blah. Okay, when I had the ability to at least get uniforms or costumes myself, I didn't have to ask for my parents to buy me something because they wouldn't. I'm a very simple cosplayer. Gee, I wonder, how did you buy your outfits? I'm just curious. I mean, the costumes came from somewhere. You didn't make them. You say, I just buy costumes and I have them tailored. I'm not skilled like those many other. So did you give them money? Or did they just do it out of the goodness of the community you're in? How did that work? Will? His name is Will? What is his name? It's Will. Yeah. I was going to say Wesley, but Will it is. How he became a diehard leftist is also a standard tale, a particular common refrain in the last several years. Following the run-up of the election of 2016, really, you're blaming Trump. I became a diehard leftist because Trump was elected. Are you joking? I don't know what to say. I know Trump did a lot of good things for increasing the standard of wages to people in 4 years, compared to what Obama did in 8 years, but I mean, I don't get it. So he found himself delusioned of the two major parties, which I think many Americans are, because there's only two really, for voting purposes. And he went looking further left for answers. Why would you, okay, wait a second. If there's left and right, why would you go further left or further right for the answers? That doesn't seem very practical. If you're upset with both, why go even further in one direction? Why wouldn't you seek a more centrist or external solution? That would seem more believable, more logical, more practical. Not, we need extremism, guys. Left or right is bad, but further left, that's good. That's stupid. Will? I think your logic is lacking already, but okay, fine, you're a lefty. Good for you. My generation, the millennials, were affected by the crisis that is capitalism. No, unless you want to say they were affected positively. The fact that you're even breathing is as a result of your parents and grandparents moving to North America, I imagine. I assume this guy is American. So they wouldn't have come here if it wasn't for capitalism 100 years ago. You wouldn't have been born, Will. So bravo, America, for giving birth to Will. They were told that they just sort of go to school, they take on this debt, but then you'll get a job. They play by the rules, right? Okay, so yeah, that's kind of a lie in some regards, because just because you get a degree doesn't mean you're guaranteed a job. This is the difference at least in Canada, the difference between university and college. University produces engineers, generally speaking, and college produces technicians, generally speaking. College is gearing you for the workforce, whereas university is gearing you up for something else. Usually an engineering job, but it could just be a flight of fancy. It could just be basket weaving or God knows what else you can learn in social sciences, which don't amount to anything. Not to say you can't get a job in social sciences, it's just really hard. But then they emerge into a market that is virtually non-existent. Yes, but again, what are you talking about? Will, what area of study? Was it STEM? I can guarantee you'll find a job in STEM. They are swimming in debt, I agree. That's why university is not worth it these days. And then having almost all their income go for rent. They've got to piece together multiple jobs, 3 or 4 side hustles, gig jobs. Yeah, welcome to the new millennia. Welcome to surviving in the 2020s or the 2010s. You know, it's no longer just one job for the rest of your life. It's multiple jobs, multiple gigs, multiple side hustles. That's how it goes. That's life. And you can blame things like the government for that problem, not capitalism. You can blame stuff like trying to make men and women equal in the workplace when they're unique individuals and their performance should be based on merit, not government intervention of rules. There's all sorts of things to argue this point of why things are different now, which I'm not going to get into. It's a whole other topic. But obviously this person is concerned about jobs and about money, which is interesting because he's recommending communism to get to Star Trek land. I don't know. This is the best that capitalism can do. Whoa. I should have read that first. Okay. When he's talking about universities, he's talking about subsidies from the government jacking up prices. If the government was not involved in universities, you would not have high tuition. It's that simple. The university would see the market price for what it would cost for someone to go to university and how many people want to go to that university. There'd be demand to go to that university. Prices would naturally increase as a result. If not, prices would naturally decrease. Again, depending on which country you're in, like Canada, we have these subsidies for all of our universities, so all prices are high. Tuition costs have been going nuts, as well as for colleges. So, to say this is the best that capitalism can do is just, I mean, you're missing the forest for the trees, man. Figure out where the money is coming from and why. Then you'll know why tuition is so expensive. Then you'll know why the housing market is so expensive in certain cities, like Toronto and Vancouver in Canada. It's basic stuff. This is nothing hard to... Anyone could read this up. It takes a few minutes to read up on this, why prices are the way they are. So I think I became radicalized just by my experience. Okay, so you're admitting you're an ignoramus. That's fine. And you jumped far to the left because stupidity. It's fine. Just like millions of other people. Nope. Not just in this country, but around the world. Again, what are you talking about? What caused you to be a communist as a result of seeing high prices in post-secondary education? That's retarded. Prices don't get inflated just because there's a huge demand. That would be the market price, but it's not the market price. So you have to know where the money is coming from, sir. It's very simple stuff. That's what happens with subsidies. Anything you put into a subsidy, you get more of. And who controls the subsidy is the government. Okay. So from 2016 to 2020, he made the Star Trek Communist website, yada yada. Okay. The reality is we actually already live in a post-scarcity world now. No. Will, everything in your home, your apartment, whatever, costs money. The water being pumped through your pipes, electricity that you turn the light on with, the gas to heat your home and cook your food, except the air you breathe. Well, I would argue even that costs money if you're talking about living near an industrial area. But everything around you in your home costs money. If everything costs money, that's not a post-scarcity world. That means you have resources you have to pay for. I don't understand. Now, if we had a better economy, you'd still have to pay for these things, but the price would be a lot lower because there'd be more competition. You see how that works? When the government gets out of the way, you have multiple companies, service companies like electricity and heating and food and all sorts of other things competing for your dollar. Prices automatically go down. That's why we have amazing opportunities with bulk purchases from Costco, Sam's Club, and all these other large warehouse style, because they cut out the middleman. They cut out the grocery store chains. They become the grocery store chains. They can pay you, or they can sell to you at lower cost because they don't have to pay the transport fees. They are the transport fees. They are the warehouse. The warehouse has become the grocery store or the shoe store or this or that store. That's how you get lower prices, by providing greater services. Same products, better prices. People will buy. People will spend that $120, whatever it is, to sign up for Costco, for that card every year, because they save in the long run. There's often an argument that people say, oh, you only get the Star Trek future because you have a replicator box in the wall. Well, how do you get a replicator box in the wall? Free enterprise, solving problems. It's not through government. The government does not solve problems. It creates these problems. And then what happens? The free market or free enterprise has to solve those problems. And then can you have socialism or communism? After you have post-scarcity, I don't care what you have, because everyone's needs are going to be met. You can make all the groups you want. You can call yourself the independent communist party of whatever. No one cares. So long as you're not infringing on their rights and their freedoms and their basic needs, then no one would care. If you start stockpiling weapons, you might turn an eye. People might look at you a little bit funny, like, what are you doing there? All that stockpile. What, are you trying to take us over or something? I don't know. Doesn't sound good. But it doesn't matter. If you're eliminated need and want and homelessness and poverty and sickness, yeah, make any power structure you want. I don't care. Make a club. Make a cult. I don't care. Call it whatever you like. Just don't come knocking on my door. Which I would say that's a very disingenuous dodge, because we already have the ability to house and clothe and care for everyone right now. It's not that hard. Then why haven't you done it, Will? What's stopping you? If you're saying you can do it, or we can do it, then just do it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because that requires money and resources, but you say we already got it. We live in a post-scarcity world. So go grab it, buddy. You're the know-it-all. You're the one with all the resources. What are you complaining about? Go do it. Stop dressing up in your stupid Star Wars paraphernalia. Stop wearing your pajamas out in public. Put on a suit, shave your head, or whatever you do, with whatever hair you got in your... Yeah, I guess that's shaved. Look presentable, and share your wealth. Go for it. No one's stopping you. Write those checks to the Treasury. No one's stopping you. You're the one with all the resources, after all. Over time, Nguyen applied his Marxist belief, I don't know where this makes sense, to Trek, and drew some pretty revolutionary conclusions. Despite the name, however, he doesn't believe he's the only one to do so. I call myself the Star Trek communist, but I'm not saying I'm the only one. Yes, there's plenty of lunatics out there as well with this philosophy, with no plan, with no economic understanding. It's pretty sad. But hey, you know what? We live in a post-scarcity world now, so it's already done. We don't have to worry about anything, right? Right, Will? It's the online culture of saying, change my mind. They want that argument. They want to have this debate, and I've already gone down that road a long time ago. Really? Was that in grade school? Because I haven't heard that argument. In fact, I've heard no one make that argument. That's retarded. But please share with us your philosophy. I'm sure you'll revolutionize the world of economics believing that there's a post-scarcity world right now. What nonsense. It's just actually a way to get people to ask me about socialism, Marxism, and... Dude, if you stopped at socialism, I might have a talk with you. But then you jump to Marxism and communism, now I know you're out of your damn mind. You're not worth the time to even talk to. Go read some books. I know I hate saying this to people, and I hate when they say it to me. Read any economist in the past 30 years, hell, 50 years. And you'll probably learn something a bit more. Hayek would come to mind. It's Mises. There's all kinds of economists out there to explain things to you. My DMs are actually open all the time, answering questions. Yeah. People, he says he's a wholesome, positive person posting about politics and they want to know more. I don't think I've ever met a positive communist. They're always angry about something. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. I'm not an expert on the psychology of socialists and communists because I don't talk to these people. There's no need to. They don't interest me. What's he doing? I've never seen a teacup like that before, but okay, whatever. It's a very common refrain. Oh, well, you buy the uniforms, right? So you're a capitalist, right? And actually, do you need to have a response to that? It's just there's a misunderstanding of what capitalism is, a misunderstanding of commerce. The exchange of goods and services existed before capitalism, under feudalism. Feudalism? I think we were exchanging goods and services well before feudalism, buddy. Under previous forms of government. Before we even had government, we had people trading. Called bartering. Okay, whatever. The use of money and having discretionary income are not verboten under communism. All right, whatever. Okay, so he's talking about Chief O'Brien here. He's very proletarian? How do you gauge a member of the Federation where they've eliminated poverty and power structures and all that other crap that Marxism is all about and postmodernism is all about? How the hell do you even consider Chief O'Brien a proletarian? Of course, if you're a communist, that's the only way you can think is these asinine ways. And to reduce him to that is just stupid. His ancestor was this guy, a union man. He's a real proletarian. But he also plays the cello. Really? I had no idea. He plays darts. Oh, he plays games. Wow, he's a real proletarian. He goes to bars. Oh, like everyone else on DS9. That's fantastic. He's a family man with children. Has a well-rounded life. Doesn't Norn also go to bars? Doesn't Garrick also go to bars? He's not a family man. While also being the heart and soul of DS9. Okay, you say so. And that's exactly what we're saying. If we free ourselves from living paycheck to paycheck, what couldn't we do? Well, here's an idea. Why don't you make a heck of a lot of money and then teach people how to do that, Will? And then you wouldn't have to have these dumb arguments. You just teach people how to be rich. Instead of arguing, you just give everything up or whatever the hell you're talking about with communism. Because that's what communism is. It eliminates wealth. It eliminates excess. People are starving for scraps in communist regimes, in case you forgot your history. How much of our lives would be freed up? Yeah, I admit, I think it's a great idea to get rich by making a lot of money, not by sharing a lot of crap that no one wants and doesn't solve any problems for anyone. If you didn't have to worry about putting food on that table, yeah, it's great. But you still have to put food on the table. You still have to eat. And how do you do that? By getting a job, by making money. And as you said, that's not a capitalist thing. That's a living thing. You need to put food on the table. If you don't work, you don't eat. It has nothing to do with capitalism. So how does communism solve that problem? It doesn't. In fact, it kills people. That's why people gravitate towards Star Trek. They look at Star Trek. Wow, I really want to live on that nice pastel-colored ship. I don't know about that. I think people like Star Trek because it's a future which is idealized. It's like, wow, we could achieve this. We could achieve this wonderful result, which has nothing to do with political structures or economic structures because we have goddamn dilithium crystals that provide us with everything we need. It's basically an unlimited energy source, or so abundant that it's no longer a problem. And then we have technology that can create matter out of energy. So if you have an unlimited energy source with a machine that can create anything from energy, yes, you're living in a post-scarcity world, which has nothing to do with communism. Now, if you could share with me the one thing that communism has made, which I guess capitalism or the free enterprise hasn't, great. Show it to me. Because everything under the sun that I can think of that has helped people out of squalor or poverty has come from capitalism. Every advance in science has come from capitalism or the free enterprise. Every discovery in science, not from the government, from capitalism. Being part of an organized effort to reach people with these ideas gives me a lot of optimism. It's what we call revolutionary optimism. There's tremendous class consciousness right now. Oh, God. People are learning very rapidly. There's no better time to market. Sounds like he's being a capitalist. It's always a buyer's market. I used to say that. I still do. We're talking about stocks, but I don't know. Would the communist economics have a stock market? I don't know. Probably not. Because if the workers control the means of production, then why would they sell stock? They own everything. And if you're not a worker, you can't own anything. So no. If you have a communist economy or a socialist economy, then no, you wouldn't have a stock market. So it would never be a good time to market because there would be nothing to sell. You can't sell by definition. So this was rather ridiculous. He is a rather silly person, but good luck talking to him if you want. Apparently he's friendly. Don't think he's going to listen to a goddamn thing if he's this old. And he made a website about this for 5 years ago, whatever, thinking that Star Trek is communist. Good luck, sir. I think you're out to lunch. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Have yourself a great day.